Hey, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to all my cloud scholars out there. My name is Kieran Tross and you have entered the Cloud Scholar podcast. Here at the podcast, I have discussions and talk about different things, topics such as how to get into cybersecurity, the life of managing a help desk or a life of a help desk analyst. Plus, today's topic is going to be talking about how to find a job working remotely in IT. The one thing I do want to say is even though I'm talking about how to find a job working in IT, you can use the same comprehensive guide I'm going to provide to you in any genre of work. So if you want to get into become a project manager, or if you're looking to become a HR manager or any type of field that you're trying to get into, as long as that they have remote work, these guidelines will help you out. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll hit that like and subscribe button because I've earned it. Okay, so let's jump in. The first thing that we're going to talk about when it comes to remote work, and I've got my notes right here, is the benefits of remote work. So let's think about it. The benefits of remote work, I like to call this your why. And the reason why I'm saying that is because there's a reason why you want to work remotely. Work-life balance, be around your family some more. You're tired of the commuting. At this point, there's a lot of different, work is in the cloud so much that you can do the same work when you're in the office versus when you're away from the office. Another reason why you might want to be able to work remotely is you may have other things that you need to take care of in other places in the world. So let's say if you want to, you have an Asian father or mother and they're back home in, the West Indies or something like that, in the Caribbean, or let's just say India or wherever your family is from, you can now go there, work from those locations, and still be able to help your family out and still earn an income as well. Remote work gives you an opportunity to find jobs in other areas in which you wouldn't have found. So if you're living in New York, you probably get a job in Texas. You would have never found that job or looked at that job because you don't live there. So remote work is definitely, there's a lot of benefits of remote work. But how do you get those jobs? So let's first start talking about assessing your skills and your preferences. So assessing your skills, you need to figure out what kind of skills do you need to get these jobs. What are these jobs looking for? What is the market asking for? Are they asking for people to have knowledge in cybersecurity? Are they asking for people to have knowledge in programming? Are they asking for people to have knowledge in SQL databases? There are different skills out there, but how do you now find out which skill is out there that's high demand? Perhaps it's artificial intelligence. That's really big right now. So one of the ways we're going to do that is, and I used to do this when I was younger, when I was in my early 20s, what I would do was I would go on 2 different sites and I would say, okay, what are they looking for? I remember I was looking to be a system administrator. At that time, I think they were, I was looking for a job probably around like $75,000 to $80,000 a year. And I would go on sites like Career Builder to find out what they were looking for. And I look at the responsibilities of that role. So there's sites that I've used in the past, which is Indeed, uh, Career Builder, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, and I'm going to jump back to LinkedIn and talk about that a little bit more. Well, there are many other sites that are out there. So there's sites like weworkremotely.com, there's nodesk.co, there's remote.co, there's pangian.com, there's skipthedrive.com, there's flexjob.com, letworkremotely.com is another one. So those sites I just mentioned from We Work Remotely on, I haven't used any of those sites. So I wanted to definitely put that out there. I did see it on a post on LinkedIn and I just documented it. And I was like, hey, this is great for my next discussion because I can provide you some information. Now, what I will say is this. If anybody out there has used any of these sites, please put it in the comment section. What I want to do is build a community here so we all can help each other out. We all can grow. I know that, you're trying to be the one to find the jobs, but we can help each other out at the same time. So if you have used any of these sites like nodesk.co or remote.co, please let me know exactly how your experience was using those sites. I can only talk about Glassdoor, LinkedIn, Career Builder, and Indeed because those are the sites I have used in the past. So now you've seen the different sites that are out there to find for remote work. You should be using those platforms and looking at the jobs that you want. So if you're looking to be a penetration tester, you should be looking at what skill set they're asking for, what tools you should know, so that this way, when you do apply for the job, you have it on your resume, and in this way that you can now be more equipped to get in those jobs. So the next thing I want to jump into is LinkedIn and networking. So I talked a little bit about LinkedIn, but this is a whole discussion. So if you do not have a LinkedIn profile, create one right now. You need to have a LinkedIn profile if you're going to be trying to get remote work or you're working in IT, because it is so essential. LinkedIn, you will find opportunities for days on LinkedIn. You can get hit up from recruiters, because what recruiters are doing is they're going to type in and say they're going to have a client says we need A, B, and C. LinkedIn's going to type in A, B, and C, and when the results are hopefully you, and then this way they reach out to you and send you a message, and then you now can have a conversation with someone that you wouldn't have had a conversation with because of LinkedIn. It's extremely powerful. I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to from LinkedIn and opportunities that I heard about because of LinkedIn. And one thing I'll tell you is, if the role that you have, your job title will help you be found much quicker. So I was IT director. I used to get messages on LinkedIn. When I got into cybersecurity, it just amplified. I mean, every like 3 messages a week when I was identity access management consultant, I was getting a ton of those. I'm a cloud architect now, and I still get a ton of messages saying, "Hey, looking for this role, and we need somebody who knows AWS, Azure, so on and so forth." So go on LinkedIn, because you're able to connect with people, and then plus, not only just recruiters, you're able to connect with other professionals. So other professionals may, sometimes what happens when you're looking for a job and you see a job there, it will tell you who has connections with the hiring manager. And you're like, oh crap, you know what? So and so knows the hiring manager. Let me message them so that they can talk to the hiring manager on my behalf. And then now, when your resume is in a stack of resumes and you're like the 95th resume, because you have that connection that reaches out to them, you come up much higher. Now you're in the 10th resume, but still your resume is going to be seen and paid attention to more because your name was brought up. So this will help you out in order for you to get the job. So I hope that makes sense what I just said just now, because LinkedIn is an extremely powerful tool and you should be using it because it's free and you could just go on. If you are opening a new LinkedIn account, well, I'm talking as if it's a bank account, but if you are creating a new LinkedIn account, one thing I'll tell you is, if you watch this video and you're saying, okay, I'm going to create a LinkedIn video account because Kieran told me to, send me a message on LinkedIn. I am more than happy to respond back to you, accept your invite, and hopefully I'm able to bridge a connection for you as well to help you find an opportunity. Because if you show the initiative, I'm going to show the initiative as well, and try to help you out. Because as I said to you before, this is a community and I definitely want to be the person to help you out. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so we're moving on. So we talked about LinkedIn, we talked about all these different sites, but what about the companies? Don't they post anyway? They do, right? So with LinkedIn and all these other sites, what happens is they consolidate everything for you, and you're able to scroll down and just make searching easier. But perhaps you may have a company that you're like, man, I really would like to work for that company for whatever reason. I don't know. Let's just say Microsoft. You want to work for Microsoft, which a lot of people want to work for Microsoft, even though they had a lot of layoffs, right? But a lot of people, when they hear Microsoft, they're going to jump to Microsoft. So you can go on these company websites and not talk to, but look and see if they have any openings in their websites, because sometimes they don't post it. You have to post on some websites. You're gonna have to post, and you got to pay them so that this way they can post that opportunity for you. Some companies aren't doing that. Plus, some companies is a little bit sensitive that they're looking for certain positions. So let's just say if you're a bank and you're looking for a chief financial officer, you may not want to post that because you're like, well, we're a bank, we should have this. This might make our clients feel uncomfortable that we don't have somebody in this position. So for those reasons why they may not post it. Another reason why and this goes back to having those connections on LinkedIn, is that some companies aren't going to post it, but what they're going to do is they're going to reach out to recruiters to look on their behalf. So if they have a recruiter looking out on their behalf, it's not going to get posted. And another good thing about networking is that if a recruiter finds out about a job, opportunity. They may find out about a job opportunity in October. The job doesn't get posted until January because the company has their what's the word I'm looking for again? Their cap or their budget, excuse me. They have their budget that they need to put in place in order for them to now fill that FTE, that full-time employee. So the recruiter is an ambitious recruiter, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to start looking for this opportunity, right, to fill this role from October. And now they're reaching out to people, talking to them, hey, do you know anybody? Do you know anybody? Let me see if I can find somebody. And then this way, now what happens is they're able to, when January comes and that budget gets approved, they're saying, hey, these are 3 people that we find that are good for you. Let's go through the interview process. Another reason why companies go to recruiters as well is because recruiters, they may not have the skill set internally, right? So that this way that they can find out who is good for this role. So they're going to go to recruiters, and the recruiters have people with that skill set, that background, who could talk that language, and now filter out all the bullcrap artists and help them find the role. So, looking at company websites is a really good tool to find out remote work. So, I just wanted to give you a little back end about how that works and why, companies have certain things on their website, and then also talking about the recruitment process there so you can have a better understanding of, what you're facing when you're going to look for remote work and why things work the way they do. All right, so the next step we want to talk about is Upwork and freelancing. So you're moving into IT because you're tired of working at the pizza shop, or you're tired of doing security, or you're tired of doing Uber, or you're tired of whatever. Now it's like, okay, well, I don't really have any skills. My skills don't translate from driving into working in IT. So how do I now do this? So let's say, for instance, you are creating websites. You could go on sites like Fiverr, and you can now offer your services on that site. And you can offer it cheap. If you're starting off, offer it cheap so this way you can build a portfolio. Once you start building a portfolio, those sites have ratings. So whether you're a 3, 4, 5 star, hopefully you're a 5 star. And then now you can now put that on your resume. And then when you go to the companies and they're like, hey, my name is Kieran Tross on Fiverr. I'm a 5 star rating. I've done X amount of projects, and I'm looking to become a web designer for your company. And then that helps you now get the skills that you like, okay, well, you know what, I don't have any experience, but that helps you put some experience on your resume. So this way now you can show it to any employer that you're looking to get employed by. So we talked a little bit about Upwork, and let's talk a little bit now about building a remote ready resume. And this kind of ties back into assessing your skills. So we've already talked about the sites out there, and now we need to say, okay, how do we build a remote ready resume? So some of the things that you want to think about, you want to highlight your remote work skills such as time management, communication, self-discipline, and tailor your resume for each application. What I would say is this: there are certain skills that you need if you're going to be remote. Collaboration tools. So things like Microsoft Teams, Cisco WebEx. Another one is, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, Zoom. And then you have things like Slack. These are collaboration tools. And if there's any of them that you don't know, I would suggest that you Google these terms. But you're going to need these in order for you to work remotely, because when you have your meetings and you have staff or colleagues, like I say, that are in Connecticut, and you have colleagues in New York, you have colleagues in Florida, there's no way you're going to meet in the room. You're not going to fly out and then just meet to have a meeting. You're going to use these collaboration tools like Google Hangout is another one that you'll use this way that you all can speak and you can create meetings. Now, I could be on a Microsoft Teams meeting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I could be on a Zoom meeting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I could be on a Cisco WebEx at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I use all these different collaboration tools because that's just how it is. I mean, in my company, there's like 2 tools or 2 or 3 tools that people like to use. But what happens if you start talking to a vendor? A vendor may say, we use Zoom. And then another vendor you might be working with says, okay, we use Microsoft Teams because they have Office 365. So you need to understand the collaboration tools and how they work. Another tool that you should know how to use is using things like Microsoft Outlook is another tool that you should be able to use as well and understand how that use, because you're going to be used that with your emails. Okay, so we talked a little bit about building a remote ready resume and some of the skills that you need to have. And those are general skills. There are skills that are a little more specific, but I want to generalize it for everyone because those collaboration tools are something that everybody's going to be needing to use, especially working IT. But if you're remote, period, you're just going to need to know those specific tools. So now let's talk a little bit about nailing the interview process. Okay, so interview process may involve video calls. Those are the same tools I mentioned before. They all have video call capability. Ensure your tech setup is smooth and your background is professional. Emphasize your remote work capabilities and showcase your enthusiasm for the role. Now, I was in college. I remember we had a class that was doing like mock interviews, and I didn't understand it at the time. I was 18 years old. I was like, why am I taking this course? It's stupid. But it wasn't stupid at all. I got a little older, and what I do now is I do mock interviews. I've done mock interviews with friends. I would suggest for you, if you're going to be trying to get a remote job, look up the job. So let's just say the job is, I don't know, a cloud architect. Look up questions around cloud architect and then send them to a friend. Have your friend do a mock interview for you, and then even have your friend say, okay, you look up certain things. You can use ChatGPT or whatever, and ask me questions as well. Throw in some stuff that you weren't ready for. So this way you can get the feel a bit about the interview. Because what you want to do is you want to get into practice of being able to articulate very well when you're talking to the interviewer. You want to be able to, have these conversations and explain what you've done. And the only way to do that sometimes is some practice. So, you could go through it with your friend. It may feel a little uncomfortable at first, but I would tell you that, after 2 or 3 times, you'll get more serious. You'll write down your answers. And even if they don't ask you any of the questions that you practice, I can guarantee that you can take some pieces from the answers that you practice and implement them when you're doing your interview. So it'll definitely help you out. So I would say, do some mock interviews as well and be ready to have like 2 or 3 rounds of interviews. So I had one place that I worked at and I had about 8 rounds of interviews. Crazy, and I didn't get the job. But I went through 8 rounds of interviews. Actually, I take that back. I did get the job, but then they end up rescinding it because they didn't want to pay so much. They were in Texas. I'm in the New York metropolitan area, and they were like, I don't feel comfortable paying somebody this amount of salary, and we're in Texas, and they're so far. It didn't make any sense. I totally understand, but sometimes these things happen where you're going for a job and you don't get the job. I feel like everybody's going for a job and didn't get the job, but you've got to try to get some type of positive feedback or outcome from it and say, okay, what did I learn from it? For me, it was, I was, sharpening my interview skills. That was one thing that happened with me. And then also it was, hey, the more no's I get, the closer I get to a yes. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's the God's honest truth because sometimes persistence beats resistance. So keep pushing forward, no matter what you're doing, and try to get that remote work. So when it comes to the whole nailing the interview, as I would say, definitely do the mock interviews because they will definitely help you out. And just don't get discouraged whenever you get a no. So the next thing I want to talk about is managing remote work challenges. So remote work challenges that I would say is out there is that, I mentioned before that you will have opportunities that you never would have had because of remote work. Now you may be living in New York and then you're working for a company in California. That's a different time zone. When you're working remotely, you're going to have people in different parts of the country, probably even outside the country that you're working with. I mean, last project I was on, I was working with a guy that lived in England. So 5 o'clock our time when we're getting off is 10 o'clock at his time. So you're going to have those kind of things happening where you're working remotely. You're going to have to get used to using different tools. I mentioned Outlook earlier. Outlook is a great tool, and you're going to be using that because that's going to be helping you with scheduling your meetings. Now, within Outlook, they do have something called a scheduling assistant. And what this does is when you put the different names when you're getting ready to schedule a meeting, it will tell you if people are available at a certain time. So if I'm in New York and I schedule a meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I got a colleague in California, it's 6 o'clock in the morning for my colleague. that person is not going to be available. So what I would use is I would use Outlook Scheduling Assistant, and I would do something like 1 o'clock in the afternoon my time, which would be 11 o'clock their time, right? So that is what Scheduling Assistant will do. It will help you out. Now, I do want to say this. With the Scheduling Assistant, it will only work for people in your global address list. It will not work for people outside of your organization. So if you work for abc.com, and this is the organization you work with, and you are working with a vendor and they work at 123.com, you won't be able to see their calendar and they won't be able to see your calendar unless you give invite, and then there's a whole security stuff with that. So what you can do is use different Outlook add-ins. So there's one Outlook add-in, and why am I forgetting the name of it right now? I think it's called Team Poll or something. I'm going to put it in the description because I cannot remember the name of this add-in. But basically what happens is you send out an email and you have different times that you're available, or that everyone can be available for the call. Not necessarily everyone be available, but different times that you can have a call set up. And what happens is people will click and say, okay, I'm available at this time, and they'll all vote. And then what happens is you'll get an email back from the tool, the add-in, and it will say, hey, Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. got the most votes, and it will schedule the meeting for you. Those are the different tools that you will use. So when you do have challenges, there are technologies that are out there in place so that this way that you can be successful in working remotely. All right, so that is the comprehensive guide to remote work. I hope the information I provide you is beneficial. One thing I want to tell you, and I wrote this down because I can never remember it, is remember that it's a journey that requires persistence and adaptability. So set your goals, polish your skills, and go after the remote work opportunity that aligns with your lifestyle. So please, please, please do not get discouraged. It is hard for all of us out here to find certain opportunities, but once you start implementing and doing things like this, it will get easier. So when you start anything, as always, it's a bit difficult, but it does get easier after a time. So I like to always end my videos with a motivational quote. And one thing I want to tell you is that this comprehensive guide, one thing is I'm not going to be one of those people on YouTube who's going to, sell you some get rich quick scheme, or, take this course in 3 months and then you'll get 6 figures in cybersecurity. That's not what I do here. I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to put the time and you're going to have to put the effort in. But anything that you put time and effort in will take time. But anything that you get quickly will evaporate just as quickly as well. So this is comprehensive guide. It's for those people who want to put in the work and actually obtain this goal and keep it for the next couple of years. So that's what I want to say to you when it comes to this whole situation. So as I said to you before, the motivational quote for today is opportunity favors the prepared. So follow the guidelines. Let me know in the comments what you think about it, because I guarantee if you follow these guidelines, you will find a remote work opportunity, and you'll be reaching out to me and they're saying, hey, Kieran, thank you so much for this video. This stuff really helped me out. I'm pretty sure the LinkedIn portion is what will help out a lot of people, because that is such a powerful tool for you all to use. So by this time, I think I've earned your like and subscribe. If you haven't done so already, please smash that like and subscribe button. Once again, my name is Kieran Tross, and my goal is to get you from scholar to consultant, and of course, consultant to expert. Thank you. See you next time.